This one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock, cause they built.
Hello, everybody. It is Mr. Bond Chronicles on Instagram and Mr. Ray Bond on Twitter. And I am delighted to be here with the lovely and great
Mrs. Bond Chronicles on Instagram and Robin Bond on Facebook.
Wonderful. We thank you so much for tuning in to the second episode of our podcast. We are super excited about what we have to get into. I think we're going to touch on a number of great things. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked the last episode about the Golden Globes and ultimately how we felt about award shows and things like that. And so the results are in.
Yep.
And what are your thoughts?
I mean, like I said before, it was great for Regina King to be nominated. Was I super surprised that she didn't win? No. I wasn't surprised at all.
I think we both said, it'd be great, but we weren't expecting that.
Yeah. We didn't watch the award show, so we got the results, I guess, the next day or the day after when we finally decided to look. I was really happy for, obviously, Chadwick Boseman winning posthumously for Ma Rainey. He definitely deserved that honor. I did watch his wife's acceptance speech, and, she is a strong woman, because I couldn't even imagine going through what she's been through and still exuding.
Hopefully you don't have to.
Right. Exuding so much class and poise. It's just, she is amazing. It's great for them, for her. And obviously he should have gotten way more acknowledgement while he was alive, but it's great to see that he did get it for such an amazing performance. I have not watched the Billie Holiday movie yet.
It just came out though, right?
Yeah, like a week ago. So it's definitely keyed up because I'm a huge Billie Holiday fan. I was not a huge fan of Lady Sings the Blues back in the day that Diana Ross did. And I've heard that Mrs. Day's performance was amazing. So I'm definitely planning on watching that. So I'm super excited that she won. Yeah, who else won that we care about?
Mainly the black.
Yes, mainly the black people. It's great for Daniel to win for Judas and the Black Messiah. John, I don't know the movie that he was, or TV, supporting TV joint. That's great. Shouts out to him because he's definitely been vocal about the acknowledgement that black actors get and the way that he was treated when he did Star Wars. So that's really great for him. And Soul, we haven't watched that yet, much to Courtney's dismay.
Yeah, she keeps bringing it up. We should probably get that done.
We should do that tomorrow. After family pictures, we should do that tomorrow. We ain't doing nothing tomorrow night.
You don't know? I might got some things to do.
You don't have anything to do that's not on our calendar.
That is correct. It's not on the calendar.
So it's really cool to see the people that we care about winning. Again, I really would have liked if Regina had been given her acknowledgement for such an incredible film, but it is what it is.
Yeah, to that point, and I saw kind of her video that she played, but I thought it was it Al Pacino or somebody was falling asleep or something in one of the Zooms. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, we talked about the importance or how important are these award shows, and from what I understand, there was technical errors, and it just.
I know Tina Fey and
Amy Poehler.
They lit the.
When your hosts come up and then they bash you, that should tell you you're a little out of tune, or you've missed some things.
Yeah.
Also for Andra Day, she also became the second black woman to win the Golden Globe Award for lead actress in a drama film. So obviously we're super excited that she won.
Huge accomplishment.
But in the history, the fact that she's only the second we're not going to go back down that path. But the fact that she was the second, I thought was something to definitely touch on. And also the directors for Soul won, as well as it won for Best Animated. So they did pretty well.
They did, yeah.
Haven't seen it. We'll see it very soon.
Or Courtney's going to get us in our sleep.
She will. And we want to keep her happy.
Oh.
So that was that. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, like I said, like we watch award shows every once in a while, but I'm
Very rare.
never super optimistic about the awards when they're going out because 9 times out of 10 I don't agree with them. So again, I'm excited for the people that won. There was a little more diversity in there this time around. Hopefully they'll do better in the future. The people who vote said that they're going to do better. They're going to add some black journalists to the voting board or whatever.
That's a good start.
Yeah, but it shouldn't have taken this, But whatever, that's pretty much it for that.
Okay. All right, so we'll move into I don't know if it's a more exciting topic or what have you, but what's something we wanted to do that's a little different. It's for the culture. It's obviously in relation to a lot of different things. Is we want to touch on Snowfall.
Yeah.
The return
Franklin
of
Saint.
Franklin Saint returns. This was the second week, so we're going to catch up on the 3 episodes. Again,
Spoiler alert. If you haven't watched it,
that's too bad. It's Monday, and you still haven't watched it, and the next episode's about to come out in 2 days.
You're just late.
Do
you don't
better.
care enough.
If you cared, you would know already.
Right.
So we can start from the top, and ultimately, what are your thoughts so far?
Man, everybody this season came in butthurt. Like Leon still being mad about Kevin, and just look. Franklin has had a lot of very, very serious decisions to make in a very small period of time. Like, this is the 4th season, but if you go back, I guess, to the 1st season and kind of look at the timeline, so to speak, technically he's only been doing it for like a year or 2 at best. At best. And so he's lost a bunch of people, like his girl got coked out, like so much stuff is going on in a short period of time. And it's like everybody around him is tripping. And I just feel for your boy.
Do you?
Yeah, most definitely.
We see where he's currently at. Like, a lot of this is self-inflicted.
A lot? That's ridiculous.
He should have cut her a long time ago. He kept trying to help her. That's what got him shot.
Yeah.
The situation with Kev, had a lot to do with that.
But Kevin was tripping.
And
then for him to go off and be like with the recipe and all, you was wrong. You was dead wrong.
Then when Leon and them got it, he took care of that, or they stayed cool. He had to
handle it differently. One, Kevin was tripping because his cousin, it wasn't his cousin that he got killed or whoever. So he was already moving funny because he wanted retaliation for that.
But again, that's a decision that Franklin made. And we saw, I think it was in the 2nd episode when the dude showed up. These are decisions that Franklin's making. And then we'll get to Scully in a minute, but that was another decision Franklin made. Bringing in Man Boy and dealing with that, like, those are decisions that Franklin's making.
And I will say that, he could improve on his decision-making skills. Like, backing Man Boy over Scully. I was with his uncle. Like, this dude out here crucifying people. Right. I don't want them problems. And what was it? Man Boy, I guess, like, a few days later or whatever in the episode, they're doing the exchange with the auntie and the uncle, and he's talking mad trash. Right. Yeah. And I'm like,
life was better before Franklin came.
You should have just took him out and called it a day. Don't nobody like dealing with him anyway, which is a big reason that him and Leon fell out. But at the same time, and obviously this is completely from speculation, in that business, there's not a lot of room for not necessarily friendships, but you can't have the people who are supposed to be down for you questioning your every single decision and move. And that's where Leon was, at the end of season 3. And, Franklin in that scene of him in the car, telling him, like, look, I don't care what you think, what you want to do. The bottom line is this is the move. And either you're going to get with it or you're going to find another plug. I don't care that you don't like how he talks to you. I don't care that you don't like the way that he moves. At the end of the day, it's my decision.
Right, but I think a lot of that has to come from their beginning. The first, I think there was a cop or someone that they had to kill. Leon had to do that for Franklin. And so Leon has seen Franklin real green. And so I think it's harder for him to follow him, given the fact that he's seen, one, where Franklin came from, and two, like he said when they was interacting, when you was gone, we was holding this down.
Yeah, true enough.
So I'm here telling you this person's a problem for me, and you're saying I need to chill out, I need to grow up. But I'm the one keeping this thing running. I'm the one keeping these people off you, so to speak. Like, Leon's been there. Leon's handled a bunch of dirt. And then when Franklin came back with an offer for basically be like a driver or to bring him back, like...
And that's not what Franklin was offering. He said, to be your driver. And Franklin said, because Franklin realizes that he still needs Leon. He wants Leon in his corner.
But my point is, that is the view that Leon has of Franklin. So when you view him as, you just coming back because you want to be a driver, you just need this, or I took care of all this stuff for you, it's going to be harder in that world for me to follow your every lead, especially when some of your decisions have caused me personally detriment and loss. Like,
I still feel like Leon's tripping now.
No. I'm not saying he's not, because his girl, like, she's been a problem for a minute,
long time,
and his mouth has also gotten him in trouble.
Yeah, but that's the whole dynamic between him
everybody apparently in the West Coast has a mouth. Everybody talks. Nobody can just shut up and do their job. Everybody has an opinion.
Everybody's got to have an opinion.
Everybody got to be the man. We even seen what the Hispanic guy, and I definitely don't remember his name, but like he almost,
the wrestler guy.
Yeah. Like he almost messed that all the way up.
Yeah. Because
they had the police behind him. They gave him the address, and then he went and did exactly what they asked him not to do.
Exactly what
so it worked out.
But again, Reed had to pull him to the side and say, "Look, man." Like,
he didn't pull him to the side. He knocked him in the head with a shotgun. And tied him up.
Well, he didn't do that. Like he got some other people, but he probably saved that man's life.
No, 100%, 100%.
But at the end, what he did was he, pulled him to the side and was like, "Look, I want to get these people for you the same way you want to get them. Like, this is completely messed up, but I don't want you to die in the process. Period."
And then
even with the message that he's went in, he was not supposed to make a big flashy public display. And what did he do? He went in there, threw the man off the roof. I don't know. He cut $100,000 into his forehead and was like, "Yeah, I sent the message." And then he did. Like, it scared him. They left. They went to the hacienda, like the whole nine. But he went and did exactly what he was told not to do.
But I think that also comes from he didn't recognize who Reed was.
No, he didn't.
And once Reed said, "I'm CIA,"
mm-hmm.
I think his perception changed.
But he also said, "Once we kill these people, like, I'm done with you."
No, when he told him he was CIA, he said, like, I'm stuck.
No, he said after we kill whatever those Fuentes or whoever they were, I'm gone. Like, I
must have missed that. But
the
way in which it ended with them together, it did not appear that was how that was going to end. So we'll have to see. I thought he was saying, "I'm with you as long as the end is they die." I thought that was his. He's like, "I'll follow your plan. I'm with you all the way as long as the end is they die." Now, maybe after that, if they split, sure. But I don't even think that would work for Reed.
It won't, because he's getting the coke over the border.
He has the house with the tunnel
under the border.
So I don't know how that works. So in one of the topics I was going to talk about, do you think the journalist or the police is going to be the bigger problem?
The journalist is going to be big problems.
So
she's going to be big problems.
One, they got the police taken care of, but two, we kind of got off the Franklin point. how do you feel about how he got rid of the police officer, and that he lied to those people, took their joint, and then sold it, and then told them you got till Friday to get out?
I mean, like that was like, I was a little disappointed, and
disappointed.
I was.
That's it.
I was a little disappointed in that move.
But again, I obviously, this is pure speculation. When you're thinking about the kind of issues that cop could have continued to cause him, and in that time period, you know, what is that? The 80s, the late 80s, early 80s. The cops, like, they already don't care about black people, but they really didn't care about them back then. And the officer was in a position that he still had a lot of power. Like, he picked his mom up, that other cop rolled out, and anything could have happened to his mom. And they would have had probably no recourse.
What did you think was going to happen when the guy got out the car and the mom stayed in the back?
For a second, I thought he was taking her to Scully.
That's what I thought.
I smooth thought that's the deal he made.
That's exactly what I was
He's like,
thinking.
you want to keep messing with me? I got you. Like, I really did. And then he took her to a cemetery. I was like, oh my God, she gonna be up on a cross. Like, I literally thought that's what was gonna happen. But the fact that he took her to Andre's grave, like, she already knows who her son is at this point. I don't know what. I mean, maybe he thought that showing her she is.
I think there's she knows what he is, but I think she still not denial, but I think she continues to be amazed. Like, I think she knew he did it, but
amazed?
Yeah, because remember when they when the newspaper article came out the next day,
this is what our son was doing last night.
Right. Like, she's really beginning to see, and then even with when she walked away after the graveyard, she's like, wrap this up.
Yeah.
Because she realizes,
but
like,
in that,
now we are a part of this.
Yeah, but
we can't just sit in our house like we was going to be stubborn before.
I feel like even in that, you know, her thing, I think, is she wants to still save him from this world. She thinks that there's still an out for him.
No way. Not when you told her to make the deal.
No.
And she facilitated it.
She told him to make the deal because she didn't want to be in that position again.
Right, but she just got in bed with another guy, so to speak. Like, now they're in cahoots, like, and he knows who they are. Because he said, so would you come to give your son my drug money? It's like, he knows who they are, and now you got in bed with this kind of person. And now it's just, instead of gangsters, you're dealing with politicians who, in most cases, are worse. If The Wire has taught us anything, like, the police and politicians are worse than the gangsters.
Still hands down one of the best shows ever.
Without a doubt. Probably my favorite show.
Oh, yeah, I think you've said that. That's definitely one of my favorites.
Even with season 2, I think it was still my favorite.
Season 2 was awful. But that's just Snowfall.
So, go ahead.
I don't think that them getting, and like, they realized the politician was a means to an end. They want to make more moves. One, that they got to start doing something with all this money that they're hiding every which way they can. And two, like, they needed, if they're going to stay in this game, they needed to have somebody, an ally, so to speak. So again, I still think that Sissy's way, because remember when the dad came to him, it was right after she was telling him about what she saw in the paper, and he was like, yeah, I saw it too. And she's like, you know, what are we going to do? I've talked to him, I've done all this, but he's still stuck. And the dad says it's because there's no profit in it for him. And she realizes, if she didn't before, she realizes if she's going to get him out, it's got to continue to be lucrative in whatever way it can. So the fact that he's now, 10% stakeholder in that development.
Which I thought that wasn't much of a negotiation. He asked the guy, so if you were in my position, what would you ask for? The guy threw 10. You don't just take 10.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think he just did that just, to keep it cordial, just to see what I think that was the first time of him meeting the guy.
Yes.
So the politician, we need to learn people's names. Like, if we're going to talk about it, we should
we could easily have taken the notes.
I think that was just his way of kind of trying to see what it's going to be like to deal with him. Because dealing with a bunch of drug dealers and those kind of people is one thing. But dealing with somebody who's in the spotlight, somebody who's besties with the mayor, like that's going to be a completely different ballgame. And Franklin is 19.
I think he functions better in that world than
He
the street
does.
world. Like, he, at one point, was in college. Like, he wanted to be that. He was wearing the Lacoste polos. So I think that'll be more of his lane, and I think that's better suited for him.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a heck of a problem in the street.
True.
And I guess I'll kind of give to you. Where do you think that goes?
What goes?
Scully.
Oh man, you know, Scully's looking for blood. You know, what drug is he doing? I need to Google that. We need to figure that out. Like, is he like on like straight opium or something? Like, because
it looks like something like that. So I'm not sure.
Because that's insane. And like, he was putting it in his gunshot wound. Like, dude is crazy. So Franklin needs to get rid of him.
For what it's worth, his vibe was right.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
He said he came in there and
roaches. I see roaches. Like, he's crazy. And I guess my thing is, I don't understand what ultimately made Franklin decide that he was going to stick with Man Boy over Scully.
Yeah, I think, and I guess that was a miss, and maybe we will learn more about it. Excuse me.
Germs touch?
You know, they
He's going to put on a mask.
They're removing all the masks from everywhere. So. But the points that were made, and I guess this is just the way it was directed, led you to believe that Man Boy was not the right person to back. Like,
he wasn't.
He was. They said they could control him more. Then they can control Scully more than Man Boy, and then Man Boy. I mean, Scully's always also crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, given those two things, you would think he would have went with that decision to back Scully. Why he chose to back Man Boy, I think we will wait and see. I think it's also because of the longevity of their relationship. But Man Boy's been nothing but problems.
See, when we got to, I guess when he went to Scully, you know, brought him the gun, I was like, oh, okay, so he picked, you know, he's going to back Scully, he's going to keep him in his pocket. And then when he went to Man Boy, in my mind, I thought that he was just going to shoot everybody in the warehouse. Everybody was going to be got, and he was going, he'd have everything. Obviously, he'd have to make sure
But he didn't have any of his shooters there.
Yeah, he did.
Just his uncle.
I mean, his uncle,
D-Ray
Davis, Peaches.
That wasn't enough to kill all the people.
But I think it was going to be more so I thought he was going to wait to see who was left at the end. And as long as he was standing, him and his folks was going to walk out by themselves. That's what I thought was going to happen. Not that they were going to, you know, set up the crazy person in the room. Because that's exactly what they did. And, you know, like, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I guess at the same time, it's the first couple episodes of the season, so we couldn't have expected for them to wrap up that situation so quickly. But
I think it's just getting started.
Yeah, the longer that Scully is around, the worse it's going to be. Because obviously he's coming for blood. And he doesn't care who gets it. Everybody can get it, as long as he gets Franklin.
So are we done with the cop?
What is wrong with you?
I got something in my throat. Get it out.
So are we done with the cop? Yeah, I mean, technically, yes, we should be done with the cop. But that guy ain't just gonna go quietly. You know, he is determined definitely at this point to destroy Franklin. Like, he really only messed with them before because he was getting the money, and then he pulled his little stunt, and Franklin, obviously being the chess player that he is, he one-upped him, but he's not gonna just disappear.
So I'm foreseeing somehow he's going to either get in touch with what was the cop he killed? That Franklin killed, the girl's dad.
Andre.
He's either going to get in touch with Andre's daughter, or he's going to get in touch with that reporter. Somehow, some way.
Well, the reporter doesn't like. Oh, well, I guess
she doesn't like him, but now they've met.
She knew him before, though.
But now they have a mutual I think they have a mutual interest, and he's going to somehow get with her, and that'll be his revenge. He can't do it with his badge, but the reason he took the mom to that cemetery is because he did generally, even though he's a terrible cop, I think he loved his partner, Nandre.
Most definitely.
And so, to your point, I think he was taking the money, but I don't think he ever intended to let Franklin get out of that arrangement.
No.
And that's why he was as brazen and disrespectful as he was because he doesn't have any respect for Franklin.
Right.
So at some point, I envision all of Franklin's enemies coming together to unite, and he's going to have to work his way out of that. And apparently he's not going to have government backing because they don't get involved in gang wars. And so
they'll only flood the streets with drugs.
Right.
So
they will cause it, but they're not going to do anything to stop it or engage in that.
I guess that's my thing with Reed. Like, your character, it's not even that he's pointless, but you don't have any authority to do. Well, I'm not going to say that because he's got some authority to do some things.
He got Franklin off the murder charge.
Right, he got off the murder charge, and the record is gone. Like, there's nothing about it that you can find. But I need for him, and obviously this isn't going to happen, I just need for him to show up for Franklin a little bit more.
He got him off the murder rap.
Yeah, but now there's some other stuff going on
that he had nothing to do with.
This is true.
And he did give Franklin the advice.
And Franklin screwed it up.
But that ain't Reed's fault.
No, that's not Reed's fault.
Reed said, pick a side. And he did. I think he picked the wrong side. And he screwed up picking up the wrong side.
He did. And I guess that's another thing. Like, I feel like he should have waited to, I don't know, get more manpower to formulate a better scenario where he knew that if he was going to take Scully out, Scully was going to get took out. Because now he's in a situation where he's running.
I don't know that he's running. I think he's just constantly looking over his shoulder. They're not going to leave. They can't leave. Like, he's still the supplier, still the plug.
I'm not saying he's running, but like you said, he's looking over his shoulder. Like, he's in survival mode right now. Because Scully and his goons are out there, ready to...
Oh, yeah. So, who on Franklin's team do you think Scully will get to?
I don't want to say Leon, but it'll probably be like Leon or somebody in that area.
I think Leon's too valuable. I think...
To Scully? No, he's not.
No. To Franklin. I think the dad's going to get it. I think somehow, some way, the dad's going to get it. The mom ain't going to get it. The relationship that Franklin's had with his dad has never been the greatest. I think for the sake of the story, the dad is the most expendable. And...
Of the whole show?
Yeah.
I mean, the uncle is not expendable too.
No.
Yes.
He just caught his first body.
And look at how he's acting. You can't be talking all the crap that he be talking and then be ready to break down, cry. And then he gonna come back to the meeting and be like, yeah, I shot him. No, I didn't shoot him. Man boy had it. He knew daggone well that man boy had hit that dude.
He did hit him.
No, he did, but he knew that man boy didn't kill him.
No, he didn't. Neither one
when
of us
they showed the flashback,
neither one of us have been in a gunfight, but I can assure you, with the amount of adrenaline he had going, after he just shot a man from like this close away, I can imagine a lot of things went through his mind or were lost on him. And he's not that guy. Like,
what other value?
He's an integral part of the business.
Frankie is an integral part of the business. The uncle, what does he do besides smoke weed and talk crap?
They were using his shop at one point as one of the businesses. His stereo, whatever.
Yeah, but Franklin bought that. Like, he didn't have that thing before.
Well, obviously, Franklin bought everything. But, and he was holding it down. And now, apparently, he's part of the muscle. So.
No, he's not.
They took him there with a gun.
Because they had no other people.
So he's a part of the muscle.
He was a part of the muscle for that, but he ain't a part of the muscle going forward. Whatever.
The dad's gonna get it.
I don't think it's gonna be the dad, but Scully is definitely gonna get somebody. We just don't know who it's gonna be. Hopefully it's not Franklin, because it would really suck if this is the last season of the show.
No, I mean Power did it, so I guess we can't.
Yeah,
say that.
they did. They took Ghost.
Shameful. So we talked about, obviously this series is based on crack, and we've seen the raw impacts of crack and what it did. We've seen Wanda, her tooth came out.
I know, that was crazy, and then it was so graphic. Like
Yeah,
the FX shows typically are
Yeah.
pretty graphic, but just the she's like digging in her mouth and then just tooth in hand.
Is that her rock bottom?
Nah. From my understanding, obviously more reading, watching documentaries, like that's typically not rock bottom. We watched that. Netflix has a dope documentary. It's called Crack, or is it called Cocaine? It's something. We'll put the link. I did. We'll put the link in the description of the show.
They interviewed a bunch of people from basically the crack era. Cops, former dealers, former users, cultural historians, and there was one lady, she was really small. She didn't have any teeth, basically. I'm sure that woman would have told you when she lost her first tooth, that was rock bottom. She would have told you when she gave up her kids, that was rock bottom. But she didn't stop.
It just seemed like a reckoning for Wanda.
It seemed like it.
Because her MO to begin was, she was bad.
Yeah.
Like, she was confident. And I feel like that is a huge, like, oh my God. Like,
what's wrong with y'all?
What's
wrong with us?
Right. Like,
you out here too.
You're with us. And obviously her teeth look trash anyway.
They were.
But looking in the mirror and then the blood coming out of her mouth, I hope will be a wake-up call. And then I was surprised to see Andre's daughter had got
completely clean.
Found Jesus, I'm guessing?
Well, I mean, they were religious before, but it seems like the auntie, really put the rod in there and got her together.
So we'll see if that's...
But she still looks like she's a little bit off.
No. So I think she's off, but I don't know if it's crack off or if it's I shot Franklin and my dad's dead off.
I mean, it's probably a combination of all those things. So you look at what her life was like before she started using to what it's been reduced to now. Yeah. And again... Like,
if you'd have left her in that house, he'd be all right. He would have
been shot.
He'd have been good.
But Andre wasn't going to leave him alone. I don't think there was any scenario in which Andre was going to just walk away from the situation.
No, 100%. Andre had to go, but...
There probably could have been a different way to get him gone.
Nah.
Or he just...
Because he had already lost his job.
Oh, yeah, he was on suspension, but he was still... Yeah, so, I mean, he did that. I mean, he didn't do it to himself. Yeah, again, I don't think there was any situation in which Andre would have been able to stay around, so to speak, and they, kumbaya it out.
If she's strung out on crack to that extent, I don't think she gets close enough to him to kill him or shoot him.
No, this is true, but she was still kind of lucid. Right. She was manageable, I guess, but at the same time, it was like, again, if we look at the time period, they said that he'd been gone for 4 months.
Right.
So 4 months before the journalist showed up on her doorstep, she was strung out. And in that 4 month time period, she got clean, but all of the stuff that just happened, it was still fresh. So she's not okay. And I guess you can really tell by the words that she was choosing when she was talking to the journalist. Like, she sounded crazy.
No, what she did was crazy. How she... Oh, no, because the officers asked, and he said he don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So
nobody knows what happened.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who shot him. And personally, I'd have gave her up. You ain't gonna come shoot me.
Nah, because then she started talking. She was in jail.
She's a crackhead. What was that? She's not a credible witness for anything.
She can point them places.
But the police were already in the vicinity of him anyway. That's how they had the raid, in the You know, like, it's not like he's not
So
on
then
people's
one
radar.
more the officer's the dead officer's daughter comes to you and says, the reason I did it is because of this.
Yeah, but
They are going to look into that heavily.
yeah, they would have looked into it, but they didn't have anything.
I don't think you do that.
I mean, true enough.
You should, if you was gonna do that, then you should just left her where she was, and she could have found out her dad was dead through the grapevine, and she would have never. I doubt
She
if
would
she
have
was
put
still
two
in the
and two
house, she would have
together.
thought it was Franklin.
True enough.
So where we're going is crack in general, and this episode is focused
The
on
show, yeah.
on crack. Well, our episode's named.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you did that.
Yeah. So we're going to pivot a little bit based on the show, and I thought you had a really great insight and forethought into the bigger picture of crack in real life and its impact on the Black community, the epidemic, and how it's policed, how it's viewed. I think is also an important piece, and how it's, you know, the media has portrayed it as well. But speaking of the Netflix documentary, I'll kind of turn it over to you since this is something you want to talk about, but I definitely have a bunch of thoughts as to why we're here and maybe where it'll go.
So yeah, the show Snowfall.
And for what it's worth, there have been a lot of shows over the course of the years, movies that depict what the crack epidemic did to Black communities. And at this point, you know, the same thing with Fred Hampton. We know for a fact that Reagan turned a blind eye to the smuggling of cocaine into this country to fund a war in South America. And I mean, just to be a person in a country and say that, knowing what it did to, you know, generations before you, people, it's just insane. I will say that the documentary definitely shed a lot more light onto what it was like back then. And I say back then, but I was born in 88.
As was I.
Oh, we were born in 88. And the crack epidemic was really just then coming towards a conclusion, if that's what you want to call it. And it's disgusting to see the complete disregard for human life, for, you know, the values that America is built on, because these people were suffering before crack hit. They were poor, they were jobless, people were really struggling. And in a time where there weren't a lot of other options, this drug just ravages inner cities, and not just users. We're talking about, you know, the gang-related deaths, just everything that went on in that era. For government to then come in and we're going to crack down on drug users. We're going to crack down on gangs. We're going to crack down on distributors. But in the documentary, and obviously these numbers might not be completely correct, me regurgitating them, 2/3 of people who used crack at the time were white.
And it's disgusting to see the complete disregard for human life, for, you know, the values that America is built on, because these people were suffering before crack hit. They were poor, they were jobless, people were really struggling. And in a time where there weren't a lot of other options, this drug just ravages inner cities, and not just users. We're talking about, you know, the gang-related deaths, just everything that went on in that era. For government to then come in and we're going to crack down on drug users. We're going to crack down on gangs. We're going to crack down on distributors. But in the documentary, and obviously these numbers might not be completely correct, me regurgitating them, 2/3 of people who used crack at the time were white. But if you look at the prison population and how much it grew from, I think it said 82 to 94, the number of prisoners, I guess is the word you would use, went up 700%.
In the black community.
In the black community, because black and brown. It's just crazy to see it. And then the passing of the laws in which how they decided who was going to get how much time for, the little vials of crack, but cocaine, because it's more of a hidden drug, it's more of a luxury drug. Black people don't do that. White people do that drug, and they're going to get less time. They're going to get it was just crazy to see it broken down into that. So obviously watching Snowfall, you see I guess it was in the first season where he learned the recipe to make crack, and then the way that his neighborhood has changed, the way that LA changed when crack came in. It wasn't just in LA, it wasn't just in New York, it wasn't just in DC. It was in communities everywhere, destroying our community. And here we are, some 30 years later, and we have the opioid epidemic, where people are taking, prescription meds, and they're doing all these things to get high. And instead of cracking down the same way that they crack down on a different type of drug dealers, everybody's getting rehab. We don't want to ruin this woman's life. We don't want to, this man to not see his kids grow up. We're going to send them to rehab. We're going to get them some help. And just the injustice in that itself. I'm not saying, throw everybody in jail, but there are so many levels in which this country needs to have a reckoning in which it's treated black people. It's just, it boggles my mind on a daily basis. James Baldwin said, to be black in America and be woke is to live in rage every day. And it's like, I think I'm a pretty laid back person. I keep my head down. I focus on the things that are important to me. But again, I do a lot of reading. I watch a lot of documentaries. I talk to a lot of people. And the more you learn about just how much the government really doesn't care about minorities, the more infuriating it becomes. It's like, to what end do you have to go to make people value a whole portion of the population? It's just ridiculous.
So I definitely agree. I think, like last episode, I wore an unqualified immunity sweatshirt.
By Reaction Apparel, shameless plug.
By Reaction Apparel. So that's where I'm in qualified immunity. I'm defund the police. That's where I stand. Because the system, and to your point,
it wasn't built for us.
It was structured and built to oppress, and it's still that way. I am, and I guess you should never be surprised when you think of what, even back to Thanksgiving, what this country was founded on, and what the people who founded this country were willing to go to, and what lengths they were willing to go to get what they want. And when you think about the crack epidemic, came from the government wanting to sell arms illegally to the Middle East so they could pay for a war in a country that posed no threat, just for the sake of power, to have influence in this. And I'm not saying this about the people of the country, but this useless country.
For America, for U.S. government, military, or any way that you want to look at it politically, like Nicaragua meant nothing to America.
And still doesn't really. And to think that is what led to this. And we've talked about it. Even in that, I think the one part that I will say, up until they talked about the officer dying, they didn't care.
They didn't care. And
So it's like they over policed to, and this will kind of touch on, I guess, modern day, because one cop got killed, everything changed.
Everything changed. You saw the
Militarization
of the police,
Yeah.
and the way that they attacked the hood. And even for what it's worth, you still see that today. Like
100%.
when I lived over in Southeast, like I saw the jump out boys all the time, getting out of cars, running up on whoever they was running up on, and whether he was doing anything or not, he was getting in the back of the car and he was rolling out with them. Like, just to see how much it changed after the police officer died. Because before that, they were on the payroll of the drug dealers.
Right.
Like, they were getting their cut and everything was good. You had cops patrolling the streets, but they'd see a drug deal go down and they'd keep walking.
They didn't care until they felt one of their own was taken. And then it's almost like the stock market. There was an extreme course correction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the part that really loses me is that, okay, I get it. If you all of a sudden hate crack and you want to enforce it across the board.
Across the board, right.
Don't go into these low income areas and target those people. But all those suburban people that are coming into those areas, you let them get a pass and drive right back. Like that's where I really get lost. If you're going to crack down on it, okay.
Crack down on everybody.
Crack down on everybody. But that would be too much like this country actually recognizing what it is and what it stands for. At no point in this country's history, to me, has it ever looked itself in the mirror and said, we, similar to what I said about Franklin, are the cause of our problems.
Mm-hmm.
The issue we have with Native Americans is our problem. A lot of the issues we have with immigrants and immigration is our problem. A lot of the issue we have with terrorists and terrorists around the country, around the world, is our problem.
Mm-hmm.
The issue we have with Native Americans is our problem. A lot of the issues we have with immigrants and immigration is our problem. A lot of the issue we have with terrorists and terrorists around the country, around the world, is our problem. Because we keep sticking our nose and our foot in everybody else's business and telling them how to run their business, and we don't have our stuff together here. Mm-hmm. But if we can make a quick buck, or if we can put someone in power that will give us access to things that will make us money, we have absolutely no care for what that impact is.
Mm-hmm.
Where the blowback is, what the vacuum that's left when we pull out of there, what the person that goes into power that we train to put there when they turn against us, and we do it over and over and over again.
I mean, you see that all the time in the Middle East.
That's my point. We do that. And it's infuriating. But, and again, I'm not a terrorist. Like, I like to believe that, I still think America's the greatest country in the world. But I can't be super upset when you see all these documentaries, we watch all these movies. But the reason people grow up to hate America is because we keep dropping bombs on their head.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the same thing in our own country. We've dropped bombs. There was a bomb that was dropped in Philadelphia. We dropped bombs in relation to the war. And in essence, crack was a bomb that we dropped in a plague that we spread throughout our own communities, so that we could simply try and fund a war to gain influence in a country that did not matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact of that is not only did you flood our streets with this drug, but then you went and corrected it and you started arresting us for selling the drug that you gave us.
Basically.
And then not only did you arrest us, you put in these god-awful mandatory minimums that are supposed to catch traffickers. But now you're destroying the black family because whether it be, and they talked about the importance of crack on the women.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously as a mother, watching that portion of the documentary, it was like there was one instance where a woman went to the doctor, for a routine checkup. There was something wrong and she needed help. And then they showed the doctor asking all these drug-related questions. And because the woman told the truth about her addiction problem, because let's get it clear, that's what these people had. They had an addiction problem. Because she told the truth, she then decided to take that information to the police, and she had the woman arrested. But then she didn't just do that to one black woman. She did it to hundreds of Black women. They were confiding in her and, seeking help. But instead of receiving help, they received jail sentences. Their children were taken from them. And I'm not saying that being a crackhead means you still get to be a mom, but there were so many other options that they could have taken that they chose not to. But now today, because they don't want to ruin lives, everybody's getting rehab. Nobody's going to jail. There's no recourse for the way that these people are impacting other people's lives. And it's just, bullcrap.
Like, it's straight bullcrap. And again, when you look at the mandatory minimums, when you look at the way that the policing during that time period affected the community, these are problems that we're still dealing with today with the police, because qualified immunity became a thing from one of the laws. I think it was, unfortunately, President Joe Biden's law that, was a heavy influence of qualified immunity. There's just so many things that we're still...
Just for clarity, Reagan was Republican or was he Democratic? I thought he was Republican. So, and sorry, didn't want to interrupt. But,
no, you're good.
So what you have here is you have Reagan as a Republican, and actually Bush was a part of it. So you have Reagan, you have Bush, you have Clinton, and you have Biden. So these are Democrats and Republicans.
Not conspiring,
but on one accord, knowing, and these are the people that make the laws. These are the people that write the laws. These are the people that have way more knowledge than we have. So they know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They had the dude, I think it was the CIA director, go to LA, and that was a poop fest. But they know the cause and the root of this problem, and they still let that.
And I think that's the part that boggles my mind. Reagan knew what he was doing.
Like they talk about the story where the dude sold the crack.
The crack right in front of the White House, and then because he sold it, he ended up going to jail. But he was told to bring the drugs so that Reagan would have it for his little display. Or wait, was it? No, it was Bush. It was Bush. For his display, for his 9 o'clock CNN special. Talking to America about how heavily he's going to crack down on the drug industry. But then the fact that Big Bush was his VP, so he was right there. He knew everything that was going on. He was obviously someone also who signed off on a lot of the things that were going on. But for him to come into office and then pass the laws that he passed, and then just the snowball effect of them trying to appear to be improving the quality of life for Americans when really they were destroying the lives of Americans, and specifically Black Americans. It's just, I don't have a word for it, to be honest.
And I think the ironic part of all of this was, and I've never done crack. Let's be clear.
That's good.
I've never done crack, and I've never been addicted to pain pills. And so I also don't want the takeaway to be like they care about people who deal with crack, but they don't care about people that deal with opioids.
No, yeah, like addiction is addiction. Everyone who deals with addiction needs help.
However, the same energy of just say no doesn't exist today.
Mm-mm.
It is a very different mindset, and there's no doubt in my mind that it is because of the demographic that is targeted by the opioid epidemic. And I think we see it a little bit here, and there's people that I know that have dealt with it. But apparently, from what I understand, it was a big issue in like the Midwest.
Yeah.
And so...
farm country.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm not upset that they are getting a different form because policing doesn't fix the problem.
Mm-mm.
The frustrating part is that they are getting a different system and they are getting a different response, and that lives were destroyed on this side and never fixed.
No.
Nothing was ever done to remediate or make right what the wrong that was done for the crack aspect. But here now, tax dollars and everything else are going to help heal these new people because they have a disease versus just being criminals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that to me is
Part of it.
good.
Go ahead.
That to me is just it's not confounding. It's just
I tell you, there's no word for it.
I don't. It's not even disappointing. It's just American. I'll say that.
It is. It's very American.
It is the American way that when things are okay for us, and I don't think we've touched about it on this podcast, but January 6th of this year, if that group of people looked different, it would have been a very, very different outcome. And I've learned since then that the National Guard had immediate clearance to show up for the rioting and the looting. I believe it was in Minneapolis when Black Lives Matter first organized. They had an immediate. This is what happens when you have kids. You never know where it's going to be.
That's what it's going to be.
Toilet, they don't even really use that much, but that's not important. But with the National Guard, they showed up when it was a black cause, but they were literally delayed and could not get approval to show up, and they were right around the corner from the White House.
Right around the corner.
I'm sorry, from the White House and the Capitol.
And the Capitol. I think the especially when you look at it from that dynamic, just one, typically these are conversations that we have amongst ourselves. If those were black people, the situation would have been different. The frustrating thing for me, especially that day, watching it on TV and listening to reporters say it, listening to, news pundits talk about how different the treatment is of black protesters versus these individuals who decided to storm the Capitol. And it's again, there are lack of words for just, I don't even, like I said, I don't have the words for it. Because obviously saying it's not fair, like that, it's too small.
They don't care.
It's too small to really recognize the feeling that you have to watch people in your country do something like that. And then most of them, yes, they've caught a few people. We'll see if anybody goes to jail over it. Like, I'm not holding my breath. To see that happen and those people just walk away. But knowing for a fact, had those people been black, it would have been a bloodbath.
Oh, I could not imagine. And we kind of talked about how after the cop was killed during the crack epidemic, how they ran into the hood. Had them people ran into that Capitol, every hood in D.C., Lord knows, it would have been all bad.
Like, gentrification is a thing now. There wouldn't have been any more black people left to gentrify. Like,
they would have eminent domain, everything. So it's a constant reflection of this country and the way in which they operate. And I think the other part of the doc and really the crack epidemic that really, really sucked was the militarization of the police.
Right.
And I would imagine, I haven't checked the laws, but I'm guessing that's where the no-knock warrants come from. That's where the
guns that they carry, like everything about them changed because of the crack epidemic.
Right. You look at old movies and probably even in the 50s or 60s, they had their little 6-shooter.
Right.
They had their little handcuffs. Today, them jokers be jumping out of armored vehicles with bulletproof vests.
There's so much money.
Cameras that they refuse to turn on. They got 2 pistols on their leg. They got an assault rifle across their back.
Taser,
zip
pepper
ties,
spray,
tasers,
like everything.
pepper spray. All that.
To go into a neighborhood.
To police the people that pay you.
Yeah.
Because
and for what it's worth, like, you go into neighborhoods, the hood or whatever, and yeah, there's firepower there. But you come here to our neighborhood, we got a few guns. Like, we are very firm believers in our rights and we exercise them, liberally. But
100%.
I know I know many people who have guns. It's just the whole idea that the hood is dangerous because of what goes on there. I mean,
and let's not confuse the fact that there are way more guns in these southern and midwestern areas than in the hood.
Facts.
Let's not play that game like your local corner boy got an arsenal of guns at his home.
He doesn't.
He don't.
One, gun hobby is expensive.
It's not especially right
hobby.
now. Especially right now, the cost of bullets and ammo. That is not a poor man's hobby. To go to a gun range, to have a gun, to shoot, and have the land in which to shoot on. Like, it's not that. Which is why after all these school shootings and after all these mass shootings, we still got our guns. Because the people that got them don't look like us. And the NRA ain't worried about us.
But to that point, if every black person who was able to exercise their rights to own a gun, they would change the laws. They would change the laws. They would change the laws.
Because, again, I think if every black person that had it, we're still only 13% of the population. I've read a stat that said that there are more guns in America than people.
That's not hard to believe, though.
So, and I know people that have, so that's my point. Like, that's one of those things where, like, and I wish I could think of the other scenario where changing that law is one of those things where you cut off your nose to spite your face. Like, you could try and target us, but I think you would lose a lot more in the back end of those people that have had guns that have been passed down in their family and people that got 50 to 100 guns. And the huge magazines, those don't usually impact us. Mm-mm. We might get a small extended clip. We have different guns, 40, 50 rounds. But them drums and some of them stuff, them ain't in the hood.
No.
So I think,
not typically, anyway.
Not typically. So in order for them to execute and really repeal, I believe, the Second Amendment, they would piss off a ton of people that they have backing them. And I think that is, and I'll say a miss, and I think something that the black culture is starting to gain and understand, that's an avenue we can get in. Because they're so entrenched, in order to get us out, they would have to do so much damage to themselves, it wouldn't be worth it.
I mean, it's completely valid point.
Like Kyle Rittenhouse, the way he got his gun, people, there's a 1,000 Kyle Rittenhouses. Young people underage that their parents bought them guns and they've been shooting since they've been 8 or younger.
Old enough to stand on their own to hold it.
So I think that I don't foresee that being a concern anytime soon, unless some super radical person that does not care got into office, and I don't believe that's happening in our lifetime.
I mean, it's not. Again, these people, they campaign on one thing, and, they get in office and do a different thing. So the whole point of this portion of the conversation was really just to air out just how disgusting America can be. I was talking to my nail tech about Snowfall. I think I was there, and a preview of the show came on. And I asked her, like, "Oh man, do you watch the show? It's so good." And she's like, "No, I can't watch that because I lived through it. Like, I know people whose lives were destroyed because of it. I don't need a TV show to tell me how bad crack really was." And so often with so many other things, they say, "Oh, well, that was not that, that was so long ago, get over it." But the impact of just the disparity in the way that the government treats black people is still felt today. And obviously, this is in no way an indictment on people who are suffering from addiction to painkillers, to alcohol, to anything. If you need help, definitely seek help. It's not fair, for lack of better words to use. It's, thank God, our parents weren't in, those situations, and they were able to raise us differently and we're definitely going to raise our kids to not only be aware of where they come from and our history, but just be more conscious of what they're getting into as adults. Like, we want to prepare them in every way we can for a world, for a country that doesn't care about them.
100%. And that's something that I've dealt with, and I saw, I think it was a meme of a little black child and his little black boy, and it's basically was like, at what age do I go from being cute to a threat? And
I mean,
I don't know that age. Tamir Rice was 12. And we've seen countless times where young adults, specifically black ones, are on trial are on trial and arrested as adults. Emmett Till, I don't remember how old he was. So I don't know when that happens. And we have 2 young children under 2.
And there's a bunch of times we are out, and again, I'm not even getting that. But white people come up and they're, oh, they're so cute. Are they twins? Oh, I'm a twin. Or we was at Walmart,
I know, it's
and the
crazy
other person was like,
how
I'm a triplet, or I was a triplet, or whatever. And I went through the same thing when I had Bella, and I used to walk her a lot. They would never talk to me if I was by myself. But because I had a dog, I met so many white people. Yeah, it was so nice. Oh, can I pet your dog?
As a threat.
And
but
so,
if you had a pit bull or an aggressive dog,
that is very true.
It would have been a different conversation.
Bella's amazing and very cute and cuddly. And our children are obviously innocent and not seen as a threat. But
when does that transition happen?
When does that transition happen? And how do we prepare them for it? And so that's something that we're just going to have to deal with and try and figure it out. I would love to believe that by then the world would be better, but I haven't seen enough that would lead me down that path. I still see issues with policing. There's videos posted every day. I saw a video yesterday of a woman with a 3-year-old in her arms, and the store had called and said that she stole something. And the cop pulled up on her, and needless to say, while the child, fortunately she didn't put him down, but ended up body slamming her, pepper spraying her, all in front of her 3-year-old child. And turns out she didn't steal anything.
She didn't steal anything. And that in itself, it's like...
This was like yesterday.
And I understand that, police officers have a super dangerous job. And obviously they're thinking about their lives, every time they're on a scene. But at what point do we get to where they have to start thinking not just about their life and how if something goes wrong, their life is impacted, how everybody's life is impacted if something goes wrong. Because that's the part that gets lost in all the news coverage and the videos on Instagram and all of the social media crap. Like, unfortunately, we stop paying attention to that stuff. But these people's lives are still impacted by it. People lose their children, people lose fathers, people lose mothers, and it's just not enough to say that, the officer was just doing his job. That's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable anymore. It can't be acceptable anymore.
And to that point, and we'll wrap up. So I can't, and you're right. We got to do better of taking notes. And what was the young lady's name that did the poem at Joe Biden's inauguration?
Child, don't give me the line. It's late.
But I don't know if you saw that she just recently posted a story that she was walking home and an officer began to follow her. And he began to, I don't want to say he harassed her. But basically her interaction was he was questioning, like, do you live here? And it was a very
Amanda Gorman. I should have remembered that too.
And let me see if I can pull it up really quick, because I want to make sure that I speak on it. So this was March 5th.
while he's getting his life together, don't forget to click subscribe, follow us on all social media platforms. We're there and dropping content daily.
All right, there we go. So she said, the security guard tailed me on my walk home tonight. And again, this woman was just at the inauguration. So she's been on talk shows, she's been on TV, relatively relevant and popular right now.
Did a phenomenal job. And adding that he demanded to know if she lived in the apartment complex. I showed my keys and buzzed myself into my building. She claimed that the guard then left without apologizing for his accusatory actions. This is the reality of black girls. One day you're called an icon, the next day a threat. And this is not unusual.
Not at all.
I think I would like to believe all our listeners and people out there recognize this, but it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. When police, security guards see you, all they see is your skin color. And it's really sad that that's the way this country has been run and continues to pacify these kind of actions. I can assure you that security guard, unless it was complained by someone of importance, didn't lose a wink of sleep.
Not at all.
Didn't lose an ounce of dollars. And that's part of the problem. There is no consequence for it. But in the spirit of the great Amanda Gorman and the great job she did, we are in Women's History Month.
And I wanted to make sure that we did take this time to be responsible and highlight someone that we believe is really important, someone that has definitely been an influence on my life, and somebody that, what?
No, I'm just listening.
Good. What you got to say?
Been an influence on your life, how?
100%. So I'm a sports person, and you can use your grown-up words, and I could have just passed it to you.
It's okay.
But for me, for those of you who can't see what happened, Mrs. Baumgartner just spilled all my water on her shirt.
Not all my water. All the water.
All my
I'm just gonna.
that she drank, and then I refilled, and now she's spilling it again. But no, for me, Serena Williams is I would argue is the second greatest athlete I've ever seen in my entire life.
Facts.
So when you say, how did she impact me? Like, for me, to watch a black woman grow through, and similar to Tiger Woods, through a white-dominated sport, and just beat the absolute brakes off of these foreign, skinny, puny white women. And she's out there with her catsuit, and she's out there yelling.
That's what you want to talk about. You want to talk about the catsuit.
Okay, that's what you went to. So with her emotion and just being unapologetically black. Like, I remember when her and her sister first started, they had 1,000 beads in their hair.
Yes.
Like, they have embraced who they are, and they have not apologized for it. And at that, for her to be, I think she's almost 40, to still be dominating. And the only person that can beat her right now is another black girl.
Naomi Osaka.
And Naomi. So I had a couple of highlights here that I did just want to give her shout out. 23 Grand Slam singles titles, most by any player in an open era. Woman, the WTA, she was ranked the number one in singles on 8 different occasions over a 15-year span. That's almost double the age of our daughter. She reached the number one ranking for the first time on July in 2002. And on her 6th occasion, she held the ranking for 186 consecutive weeks. So there's 52 weeks in a year. She was number one for 186 consecutive weeks.
Which is, that within itself is just amazing.
Like, I don't know if you can, to be the best in the world at one thing. Like, we talk about the billionaires, and Musk goes up, and then Gates goes up, and then Buffett goes up, and then Bezos goes up. Or, you have your LeBrons, your KDs, your Jordans, your Kobes. Like, there's a constant ebb and flow, a shuffle of who's the greatest. Like, there wasn't anyone. The closest to her was her sister. And once she started to break through and beat her sister, and, like, God bless Venus, but You just came at the wrong time. You should have told your parents, hey, after me, we're done. And you'd have been, or we'd be talking to you maybe the same way. I don't know. But just the way in which she's carried herself, the way in which she's advocated for causes in this country and in Africa, from what I can understand, I've never really heard a negative story about her.
And I think that's something that really needs to be highlighted about her. Because, like you said, tennis is not typically a Black person's sport. I remember learning how to play it in high school.
You learned how to play too?
Yeah, actually, me and Brittany Corbin, well, Hill
Brittany.
now.
Brittany Hill? What?
No. We had gym together.
Okay. I was like, what?
We had gym together, and I remember they took us out to the court at the high school, and they're trying to show us how to play, but we sucked. But you couldn't tell us that we wasn't out there trying to hit the ball like Serena.
I feel like was I in that class?
You were in that class, but you weren't in our class. You were in our same.
Because I remember we went and played. I think we had like these foam balls or something, and I was okay because I was athletic, but the skill and precision that you need, I ain't had.
Yeah, I didn't, and I don't have that kind of coordination. I'm just not built that way. I'm just not built that way. But for her to come be who she is, dominate the way that she has for the better part of 20 years, it's the level of class that she's exhumed in a white sport. Like, and that's, for lack of a better way to put it, like, that's what tennis is. And I am sure there have been a lot of times where, she wanted to show people where she was from because of disrespect.
I think they're from Compton, right?
Mm-hmm. They're from Compton.
So she grew up in this very crack area that we talked about in Compton.
In Compton. Yeah. And for her, and her sister, but for
her sister was even older, so yeah.
Mm-hmm, for her to be the woman that she is and carry herself the way that she does, dealing with all of the press. Because, we say a lot of stuff about how she looks on court, she looks amazing, but I've seen as many articles negative about what she wears on court, 100%. And, what people think of what she, the image that she portrays on the court, just nastiness. But she never let any of that bring her down to their level. She just kept winning. Yep. And they couldn't do anything with it. That's all they could say. And it's crazy because now, everybody's talking about possible retirement, and obviously she probably still wants to play. And it's just, I guess, interesting to see like how their tune has changed about her. And they're super excited that somebody else can beat her now.
Yeah. And again, fortunately, it's, kind of a passing of the torch.
It is, most definitely.
But I think the other part that we see, and I just got finished with the Tiger Woods doc. I think that's on HBO Max. Really, really good as well. But now to see them passing that on to their children. And I don't know if you saw, but Serena has her daughter in the Stuart Gorman ad. And so they're in it together. And she has them in the Nike ads together. And Tiger's starting to do things with his kids. And sadly, we lost Kobe while he was doing things with his kids. So these great Black icons of our generation are able to pass that on. And we may see another iteration of them. LeBron's son just had knee surgery. But that these people that have gained such acclaim and success, and not necessarily in Tiger's case or Kobe's case, but been free of some of the negative stereotypes and the negative news press, and now to see them passing that on to their generation, I think is just, it's warming to my heart to see.
It's that little glimmer of hope.
It is. That's a good way to put it.
Because I think they're not just passing on their knowledge of the sport or, their passion for the sport. They're also passing on, all of the background stuff too. Because I'm sure when Serena and Venus got into tennis, they could have never imagined everything that was going to come from them being in tennis. The same with Tiger. And I didn't watch the documentary with you, but I did hear snippets of it. To be that dominant in a field and to be a person of color, there's such a heavy burden that comes with that that fandom and the acclaim that comes with it, they will be able to teach their kids, if they do decide to take that path, or whatever they decide to do in life. This is the way that you should handle it. These are the things that I learned, and obviously they can take it and do what they will with it. But it's so much bigger, I think, than just the sport of who she is.
So yeah, wanted to make sure that we did include that. We love our women, we love our Black queens on this podcast, and just us individually as people. So we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We appreciate the time. We appreciate y'all feedback. To everyone that showed up to the live, again, we thank y'all so much. It was
Super
a pleasure
dope.
getting with y'all, talking to y'all, being face to face with some of you guys. Overall, this is exciting. I love to do it. It's a pleasure doing this with you.
And so, for those of you on YouTube, make sure that you do subscribe. We are The Bond Chronicles on YouTube. We are The Bond Chronicles on
Instagram and Facebook.
And Facebook, we are Bond Chronicles on Twitter, because they be trying to skimp, just like on their characters. They skimp on how long you can make your name. But yeah, definitely do that. We got some great stuff coming, some great things in store.
So many good topics. And obviously we don't want things to get super heavy all the time, but it wouldn't be us if we didn't keep it real. And these are the conversations that we have in our home. And, if you have something to say, you can put it in the comments. Ray will respond.
I love it. I just got into it about Dr. Seuss.
I know, I saw.
Whatever. A conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Stay up. Stay blessed.